All right. I think we'll go ahead and get started, and hopefully it's cleared up enough to where you all will be able to see what I'm doing. So welcome everybody to another in the beginner series. And today what I thought we would do is to take it to the next level. We're going to talk about dry embossing. Dry embossing simply means that you use an embossing folder with paper and it texturizes it. So you can see on the card, the leaves actually look 3D, and that's because they are. The embossing folder has pushed up the fibers just enough to where it gives it some dimension. So that's what I'm going to show you how to do today. We'll also look at the inking technique that I used to color the leaves. Super, super simple. It looks like a complex card. It really isn't. You'll be surprised at how quickly we go through it. Now, I'm trying to shorten the videos a little bit to save time for you all and time for me uploading and editing as well. So I'm not going to go over the list of supplies at the beginning. Instead, as we use product, I'll go ahead and tell you what it is then. And then on my blog, once I upload the video, I'll also make sure to put a product list there. If you're new to my beginner series, welcome. You can go back and look at the previous videos. We've only done 3 so far, I think, so catching up will be really easy to do. And if you need to purchase any of the products that I'm going to be showing you today, you'll be able to go out to my blog, and I'll put that information in the description, and I will also go ahead and give you the name of the blog at the end of the video. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to pull this up just a little bit to give you an even better view. And as you can see, it's just a really pretty thank you card. All right, so the first things that we're going to need are our embossing folder. And I have it right here, a little hard to see. Let me put some colored paper behind it. That might make it a little bit easier. But it has the imprint of leaves on it. And this is what we're going to be using along with our Big Shot to texturize our paper. I went ahead and cut a piece of Whisper White that's just slightly shorter than my card base. So this measures 4 by 5 1/4 inches. And I'm simply going to slip the Whisper White inside the embossing folder and close it up. And then my Big Shot won't fit in the frame here, but I'll bring my plates in to show you what I'm using. I'm using the standard platform. I'll put down one of the clear plates, place my embossing folder on it, and top it with another clear plate. Actually, this one, I take it back. I think we only use 1 plate because it is really textured. So it gives that nice deep 3D. So I've got the platform, embossing folder with paper, and just a top plate. Now I'm going to take and run it real quick through my Big Shot. I have it sitting right over here to the side. Any crunching you hear is perfectly normal. And then I'll bring it back out, and we will take the paper out of the embossing folder, put that aside, and you can see how beautifully textured the paper is now. This is the emboss side, meaning that it's raised. If I turn it over, this is the debossed side. Some people actually like using the deboss side if they want to ink up the background rather than the images. But we're going to work with the images today. I'm going to pull in some scrap paper here that I have handy. And now we're going to go ahead and talk about how I inked it up. Really simple. I took some of our Lemon Lime Twist ink and a sponge dauber. And all I'm going to do is tap the sponge dauber in the ink, and I'm going to tap off a little to make sure I don't get it too heavy a concentration. Now remember, the embossed side, the leaves are raised, so if I just lightly run my sponge dauber that's inked up over it, you can see that it's going to go ahead and really concentrate that ink mostly on the raised images. And you can put as little or as much as you like. We don't have to be perfect with this because we want it to look very soft. It's just serving as the background for our sentiment. So as you can see, I'm just going through pretty quick here. Doesn't take long to do this at all. Really simple. Some of my areas are darker, some are lighter, but you know what? Leaves in nature also are lighter and darker. Just flip the page around to make it easier for me to keep it in frame so you guys can see while I finish inking this. Almost done. And if a little bit gets on the background, we don't worry about that either. It's supposed to look very soft, almost blurry. And that easy, we are done. So I'll put the ink away and my sponge dauber. And let me just bring this up a little bit so you can better see how the ink stayed mostly on the raised parts. And inking it like that also helps give it even more depth. I'm going to set this to one side and just make sure it's completely dry before we do anything with it. And the next thing we're going to do, let me bring the card back in here, is we're going to work on the sentiment. And the sentiment comes from a really pretty stamp set called Beautiful Bouquet. I have it right here. And we're using Thanks a Bunch. And then we're also going to be using this branch. But I'm not going to stamp any flowers. I'm going to die cut those and lay them on top of the branch. So I have another piece of Whisper White, probably a lot bigger than I needed, but that's okay. And the rest of the stamping that we're going to do is going to be in a different ink. I wanted a little bit darker color, so we're going to be using Pear Pizzazz. I'll just open that up. I've already mounted my stamps on my blocks. These are photopolymer, so you can see right through them. And that helps me make sure that I have it inked up well. And because I'm going to be cutting this out with an oval, doesn't really matter where I stamp it. I just need to make sure there's room all the way around. And there's our Thanks a Bunch. Next, we're going to go ahead and work on our leaf image. And again, I'm just going to ink that up in my Pear Pizzazz. And then I'm going to gently curve it around my sentiment. And I want to make sure those leaves are at the top because we're going to be adding flowers there. And that's all of the stamping that we're going to do for our sentiment panel. So my next step is going to be actually cutting this out. And I'm going to be using my Big Shot again. This time I'm going to use my stitched shape framelits. Say that real fast 3 times. And I'm using the second oval from the top, so the second largest oval. I found that gave me just enough room to capture both the sentiment, the branch, and have room for my flowers. And I'm even going to cut off that stem a little bit, and that's just fine. I want to make sure that I have plenty of room at the top to put my flowers. All right, So once I've got that, I'm going to bring back my plates, but this time instead of the standard platform, I'm going to be using the magnetic platform. It's really handy because we're working with metal dies. I'll put down a cutting plate. It will actually grab onto that so that I know my final positioning is going to be just the way I want it. So I've got it right like that. I'll bring back my other cutting plate. And now we're going to run this through the Big Shot. Be right back here. So the cutting really doesn't take any time at all. And there's our panel. And I just love the stitching around it. It really gives it a finished look. So I'm going to go ahead and take out that Whisper White, but we still need to cut a few more things. You'll notice I have a scalloped mat right in back of the white sentiment panel. And so for that, I have this lovely paper that's from, oh, Mary remind me, Birthday Memories, I think is what it's called. But I love the yellow side of this. I thought it was just a really pretty pop of color behind the sentiment. It really accentuates the green well. And this time I'm going to go to my layering ovals framelets. And it's got some wonderful, not only straight ovals, but scalloped ovals. And again, I'm using second to the largest. So we'll just pop this down and take it over to the Big Shot. Make sure I have it on there straight. There we go. And just that quick, it has cut out a lovely oval for us. And we've got one more thing that we need to stamp, and that's the flowers. So let me put that back so I don't lose it. And I'm going to bring back in, I keep my dies in with my stamps. So this is actually part of a bundle. And there's lots of wonderful dies here. But I'm just going to use this floral one to cut out two groups of flowers. One group I'm going to cut out in gold. So I have some gold here. Helps if I put it on the right section. Let me switch my plates out. That one's a little bit flatter. Plates do bow after a bit, but that certainly doesn't mean that you can't use them. I've had mine now for, gosh, I think 6 months, and they're going strong. All right, so we'll cut those flowers out. And then we've got one more set of flowers, which is why I couldn't do both at the same time because I only have one die. But there's our gold flowers. And then we're going to do some in Flirty Flamingo. Just love that name. So I'll put the flowers down, run it back through the Big Shot, and then we'll be done with our die cutting. And there we have it. And just that simple and quick, all of our die cutting is done. So I'll get rid of the plates. And I'm going to put my die back because these little things will get up and walk away if you're not careful. And now we're ready to start assembling our sentiment panel. Now I've got a couple of little hanger-oners here that I need to poke out with my pokey tool. Easy to do, but you want to be sure that you get those little pieces out because that's what really helps define this as a bunch of flowers. Alrighty. So are you ready to put it together now? Okay. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and glue my sentiment down onto the mat. And for that, I'm going to use my favorite Tombow multi-purpose glue. Just going to squidge some on the back. Don't have to go overboard with it either. And then, you guys are kind of in my way, but I'll see if I can line this up. Luckily with the Tombow, I have a little bit of wiggle room, but that looks pretty good. All right, now let's adhere our flowers down. And I put my gold ones down first, and then on top of that, I put the Flirty Flamingo ones. So I'm just going to decide how I want them. It's kind of like redecorating. You never know until you're there. And then I'm just going to very lightly, after I poke those out, put a little bit of the Tombow on here too. I've gotten pretty good at doing just little bits, so I feel comfortable with not having to use my sponge to sponge it on. But you do want to make sure that you get it on there. All right, so I've got it like that. And I'm just going to go ahead and lay it down and just give it a second to dry. And while that's happening, I'm going to go ahead and prepare my Flirty Flamingos. Now, the top flower on this actually sticks off the top, so I'm not going to put glue on the very tip of the petals on the top flower. Just going to put it around the other spots. Just like that. And then we'll go in and just lay them down. Just like that. And that quickly we've got our sentiment panel done. So now, where's my embossed? It's dry. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to attach this. I have a card base I cut out of, okay, what's the name of this? Crushed curry. So I'm going to go ahead and generously put my glue on the back, not to where it's gloppy, but I want to make sure I have it covered. Because it's an uneven surface, we want to give it lots of areas to stick. And then I'm just going to lay it down, kind of scooch it around a little bit till I get it where I want it. I guess it would have helped if I'd made sure, well, I guess it didn't really matter with my leaves, but you want to make sure if you're using a directional embossing folder that your card opens up correctly. And doggone it, I knew I was going to do that. I forgot to put the ribbon on. No worries. See if I can slide this up a little bit. Maybe. Yes, I can. Just enough. Okay. We need to put a ribbon around it. And I want to make sure, I'm going to tie a bow, so I want to make sure I have lots, because it takes me a bit to tie a bow. All right. And then I'm just going to quickly slide this under. You, of course, would have already done this before you adhered your panel down, but luckily it hadn't stuck all the way yet, so I was able to save it. Now I'm going to stick it down and come around and tie my bow. Not the world's greatest bow maker, but it'll be okay. As a matter of fact, where are my tweezers? I need my reverse tweezers to hold it so I can tie a knot. See, I told you guys I'm not the greatest at this. Let's do it from this side. Get my ribbon all twisted. Okay, this time we've got it. So I'm going to pull that as tight as I can and then use my tweezers to keep it all together. It's kind of like having that third hand you wish you had. Now I should be able to go in and complete my bow. Come on out. I see you in there. Oh, for pity's sake. There it is. All right, and then we can tidy our bow up. Get it just the way we want it. And trim our tails down. Just like that. All right, now we're ready to go ahead and finish this off by putting our sentiment panel on. I wanted the sentiment panel to really stand out because it's so kind of busy in the background with the layered leaves embossing folder. So for this, I'm going to go ahead and pop it up using some Stampin' Dimensionals. Just stick them on there. Pull off these backings. And can go ahead, decide where I want this, and I think I had it up just a little bit, so it's not quite center. And there we go. So we really created a very pretty card in about 20 minutes. Did not take us long at all. I did want to add just a little extra something. So I'm going to pull in my glitter enamel dots, and we're going to use those to prettify it. I like to work in threes, as all of you know. Threes seem to be more pleasing to the eye. So I'm just going to figure out whereabouts I want them, kind of putting them in a triangular shape. Helps draw the eye in. I'll put that one right there. And there you have it. Didn't take us long at all. Let me clear off all this trash so you can see it better. Goodness, I've got those little doodads all over the place. But there you have it. So there's the one we made today. Oops, bring it down where you can see it. And the one that we started with. Hi, Amy. Hi, Sue. Hi, Christy. Thank you all for joining. All right. Does anyone have any questions about techniques that we use, the inking technique or the dry embossing, or how the card just went together? Oh, thanks, Christy. And I hope you do try it. It really is easy to do. Thank you, Amy. Put Patricia, did you have any questions? And I apologize if the video gets just a little blurry towards the end. I tried turning off my autofocus, thinking that would help. But for some reason, while I'm shooting a Facebook Live, it doesn't let me turn off my autofocus. So I'm going to have to research that a little bit more. Well, as I said, I will go ahead and this video will be on YouTube, and then, pardon me, it should be on my blog by tomorrow. I will make sure that I have a product list for you so you know all of the materials that we used. If you do think of a question after we've closed out the Facebook Live, just pop me a comment either on Facebook or on my blog or on YouTube, and I will be more than happy to answer it. You can find me on YouTube under Cards by Winnie. I'll also have a link on my blog. And to get to my blog, let me pull this up so you can see it. It's www.cardsbywinnie.wordpress.com. Thanks everybody for joining, and I hope to see you next week. Bye now.